Jeanine Pirro's future appears to be hanging in the balance over the D.C. U.S. Attorney's decision to drop charges against a former Olympian who was accused of vandalism, among other people, at the reflecting pool. Now, sources say it is highly likely that she'll be fired. Another administration official described the president as blindsided by Pirro's reversal, which instead blamed a botched renovation by the contractor and criticized the Interior Department. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum pushed back hard on that, and we're told that Burgum and Pirro met with Trump at the White House this evening. When pressed by reporters about her future at a signing earlier today, the president didn't hold back.
Jeanine Pirro made a mistake. There was vandalism. Frankly, I think she choked because the judge was really vicious. Instead of going after the people that did it, the judge went after her and went after her department. And I guess she choked. I don't know what the hell happened. I was disappointed with Jeanine Pirro, really disappointed with Jeanine Pirro. She folded like an umbrella.
Once again, we are through the looking glass and being asked to pretend that what we know is fake is real. And Jeanine perhaps had a moment of clarity of like, we don't have a case against this man, so we cannot charge him. And now she's in trouble for living in reality in Trump world. If she had lived the lie, then she would be fine. But because she said, no, this is reality, this should not. I mean, it's the same thing with the election, the big lie. It's the same thing with January 6th. Over and over, we are asked to believe that non-reality is reality. He looks us right in the eyes. This is what dictators do, that he looks us right in the eyes and says, X is reality, and we know it's not.
Anyone want to dispute that?
Well, not really. I mean, the difference, though, between the dictatorship that you're describing and this is courts of law, where evidence rules. And if you can't produce sufficient evidence, you get uprated by a judge and you lose the case. It wasn't just this guy. It was 3 others whose cases were dropped today. And the statement from the District of Columbia Attorney's Office said it's a botched installation. Just giving up. The entire narrative that we were told for weeks was not true. And it's not like this is as egregious as those prosecutions were. This isn't James Comey. This isn't Letitia James. To the average voter, those as egregious as those prosecutions were, those people were in the game. These were civilians. They were just passersby. This could happen to anybody. It's the sort of thing that could have the possibility to really get more attention than it deserves, because a lot of people are going to say, listen, that could happen to me.
Yeah, and I think also it's worth noting that this is not the first time that Jeanine Pirro has been pressured by Trump to do something, and then the thing basically falls apart when there's no evidence. Remember when she was trying to criminally prosecute the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, over a renovation of the Fed building? Remember when the sandwich thrower was slapped with a felony and that case fell apart in a grand jury? That's just one of many other cases that she's brought since in the limited time she's been in this job to try to pursue Trump's ends. And to Teray's point, I mean, this is like a fictional thing that Trump has basically made up, and he is convinced that it's real, and he wants everybody around him to as well. And it looks like Doug Burgum is indulging him.
Well, I, for one, was really hopeful we would never have to talk about the reflecting pool ever again. Here we are.
Sorry, he won't let you. He won't let you, Lydia. Sorry.
Jeanine Pirro is doing her job. You know, she's going where the evidence leads, and we'll see what happens. Trump tends to be more loyal to his people he's known a long time, so I'm curious to see how this plays out. But Jeanine Pirro is doing her job
over this. What does that mean?
I think it speaks to a truth in the Trump administration and the people that surround him, which is he loves to hire incompetent loyalists, but he also loves to have a scapegoat, and particularly the women around him. You know, this is sort of a theme that I've been tracking, whether it was Noam or Gabbard or, you know, just...
She left on her own accord.
Yes, yeah, that's right, Bondi. But I think there's this trend with Trump where he creates his own problems, but he also creates his own teams. And when people fail to fall in line or fail to execute on almost an impossible task like defending this, he's unafraid to throw them aside.
I think I agree with all that. I guess I would say, to Noah's point, the real problem here is that Jeanine Pirro had to appeal to a court of law. She had to present facts. And of course, the court recognized that this was a lie. And so, she had this impossible task, which was to acknowledge reality or lie to a court, which is just technically illegal, even for the Justice Department. And so I think the truth of this whole situation is, of course we're asked to live in unreality, but the thing that's more dangerous here is that the president is willing to fire his own people in order to have willful prosecutions that are just totally made up against innocent, basically bystander civilians. And that is a weaponized DOJ, which is exactly what he claims to have been worried about.
This is President Trump talking about this contract that is really at the heart of this. It's a no-bid contract that went out to some contractor that he had apparently had a previous relationship with. And this is what he said back in April versus what he said today.
Now, I'm not saying I was 100% thrilled with the contractor, but the contractor was rushing. We wanted to get it open for July 4th, and we got it done. Yeah, by the way, I didn't know the contractor. Everyone said the contractor. I didn't know the contractor. But when it was completed, it was perfect. I said, Doug, I have a guy who's unbelievable at doing swimming pools. I'm going to send my contractor over and take a look. He looked at it. He called me up. He said, so we can do something on it. We have a color. It's called American Flag Blue. I said, that's the color I like. He talked me into it very easily.
I mean, the lies, it's just a lot of lies.
It is.
From 1 month to another.
But he's supposed to be a builder. Whatever we think of him politically, he should be able to build things, right? He should be able to work with contractors to get what he wants, right? But clearly, again, he's unable to do that. He's actually falling back on the thing that America first became knowing him all about, firing people, right? That's what we're getting back to here.
But also, I mean, this contract has been rife with problems from the beginning. As he pointed out, he rushed this job. He gave this guy a no-bid contract for $6.9 million, which is several times over more than he said the whole project would cost when he started it off. They used this rarely used exemption that is supposed to be used to prevent serious injury, financial or other, to the government in order to get this contract through. So I guess it shouldn't be a surprise to any of us that the president cutting corners on this project and elsewhere, by the way. Let's not forget there's a whole hole where the East Wing used to be. All kinds of things at the White House have been torn up, and God knows what those arrangements have been. But this is a very vivid example of what it looks like when there's no oversight, which there is supposed to be for things like this.
I mean, to your point, if there was a little less tolerance on the part of Republican lawmakers for this sort of thing, you'd probably see less of it because there'd be a check and a mechanism to enforce some sort of propriety on the president. They don't really do, the Republicans don't really do him a lot of favors by indulging in these fantasies here. But the misuse of taxpayer dollars, as bad as that is, doesn't rise to the level of the abuse that we've just seen, charging of private citizens with crimes that cannot be proven in court, much less probably an indictment sought before a grand jury. These indictments were simply handed down. So I think we're talking about apples and oranges here, and those oranges are really, really bad.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that because I mean I think that the damage that is being done to regular individuals is the story here, and also Trump's willingness to weaponize the federal government to pursue his imaginary aims is what this story is about. That's scary.
And we did watch in real time as this renovation happened. I mean, people were documenting it on their runs on TikTok, and it came as no surprise to us when the paint started peeling up and the algae blooming. But, I want to uplift something that I was seeing as a narrative online, which was people were saying, this is my paint chip. Maybe I'll sell it for $250. And then commenters were joking, I already paid $14 million for those peeling paint chips.